Welcome to the Business Builder podcast. We've got the special guest today, James Hatfield. He is the Chief Revenue Officer of LiveSwitch. How are you doing today, James?
Doing great, Derek. Thanks for having me on the show.
Right on. Super excited to talk with you, James. You've done some amazing things in the industry and really lots to dive in here. Can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of your journey, climbing ladders? You've been in the home services business before to, co-founding a $1 billion company. Can you speak about your journey through that all?
Yeah, I come from humble beginnings. My grandfather didn't even graduate high school because his dad died young. So he was the oldest in the family, had to drop out, get a job, and help put food on the table. So I can't imagine that a 16-year-old doing that, but he certainly did. And then my father is a self-made guy, built his own home. I come from blue collar builders, and my grandfather wanted me to be a painter after I got educated after high school. And so that's what I did after high school. Opened my business. I had to find a way to put food on the table for my family. And I had multiple crews and power washing, painting companies, and I was well on my way. And I thought I'd be a business owner in that space and home services for the rest of my life. The problem I had was when I went to the bookkeeper, they would speak English to me. And I'm like, I don't understand a word this person's saying. I'm like, that's not good. So I wanted to be a bit more business savvy because a lot of us who are good at building things sometimes find that we're accidental business owners. And then we really need help with process optimization, operations, and then finance and legal and all that fun stuff. And so I figured I needed to, especially around money, I wanted to be educated. I didn't want someone to take advantage of me. And so went back to state school then. And as I was graduating, a guy who was running landscaping companies was doing the same thing. And he built a technology that could read an income statement and balance sheet. This was over 20 years ago before AI and all the stuff we talk about in these days. And it would basically help with the problem I had. You could put my financial statements in and out would pop a plain language report on how I was doing. And he asked if I wanted to sell it. And that got me off the ladder and into technology. I never intended to be there. And it took me on a wild journey, which I know we'll talk about more, but I'm not your typical tech guy. I have lived my life on a ladder.
Yeah, great that you can bring both worlds together and you understand the kind of unique side of running a home services type business, boots on the ground, up on a ladder, real world kind of stuff, and then bring that over to the tech side and help contractors, for the better. That was the natural kind of progression. There's a lot to unpack there. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about the financial stuff? Because I feel like it is
Yeah.
super important. And like you said, myself included, I was used to doing work, move my way up. And when I started my first business, really didn't have any knowledge of bookkeeping, accounting, finances. It all was very abstract and kind of gray. So what are some maybe like key points on the financial side or some clarity that you can bring to that?
Yeah. So, as I got more, the understanding of the numbers, I could speak the language. And I had a business partner now who wanted to sell this software. And he said, "Hey, can you help me sell it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can sell. I'm happy to pick up phones. I'm happy to knock on doors. I'm happy to go to conferences, whatever it takes." And so we took that from an incubator. We were nobody. We turned that into an Inc. 500 company for 3 years, meaning we were one of the fastest growing companies in America for 3 years. And eventually we had a big exit, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar company with a B. So that worked out really well. The things that I take into all my businesses, as I've found in nonprofits now and other businesses that I start, is that financial acumen is so important. It's so important for a business owner to understand their cash flow. So one, they can make sure all salaries are hit, that they can grow and expand as they need to. And then also as they think about when it's time to wind down and hand the business off, that's going to be the first thing and the most important thing that people are going to be looking at. So get your house in order with your numbers. It will pay incredible dividends. And I hate to see when business owners have left their finances to get a little bit dusty or they have left it off on the sideline because it really comes to hurt them. So I would say one key takeaway from today's show is get your financial house in order as fast as you can. Even if you just go get your first bookkeeper, a fractional CFO, or a CPA, or all of the above, get your mind on your money.
Yeah, great advice and so critically important and so easy also not to do it as a business owner when things get busy, like, those immediate things like the project, the clients, sales, whatever, it always seems high priority, but the financials, it's going to catch up with you sooner or later if you're not watching it. As far as getting good advice and getting those financials in place, you mentioned like a bookkeeper, which I think is essential because as a business owner, unless you're in your like first couple of months and just starting out, you really need someone else that knows off to. But how can a contractor educate themselves? Like what would be a good resource or person to talk to?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to start off with just educating yourself. I mean, nowadays you can use that windshield time or, off the clock time to educate yourself with books. There's plenty of great books out there for financials. It's okay to even turn to a financials for dummies book. Like you you want to get humble first, right? And if you don't know something, you don't know something. And then you put those, ear pods on and go for it, And then from there, what Derek said, I totally agree with. When you're after your first couple of months, go and get an in-house bookkeeper overseas even. Don't underestimate the power of some of these virtual assistant companies. They have incredible bookkeeper talent, and you can have a dedicated bookkeeper to your business. If you don't want to go that direction, maybe you're not feeling comfortable, although that's what I'd recommend because it's very affordable. Obviously, approaching a CPA firm that does bookkeeping or a bookkeeper proper onshore, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But alternatively, if you really understand it and you want to do your own QuickBooks, you can start there. But it probably be where you won't finish. Most owners that I know don't do their books. They have somebody do that, and you should, because your mind should be on the non-administrative things. Like the faster you can put legal issues in the rear view and financial issues in the rear view, the better you're going to be for working on your business and working on those process, your team lead, make yourself redundant in sales and all those beautiful things. So really from there, if you're more advanced, obviously bringing in a controller, bringing in a CFO if you've gotten to that point of view, and having someone who really commands those books well, because there's nothing more sensitive than those financial numbers, and you want that to be done spot on. Clean that up, and if you're all tied into one last thing on this, if you're all got all your personal finances tied into the business, you want to start untying that, because the bigger rat's nest that is, it's going to create a lot of problems down the road. So try to get that stuff separate.
Yeah, definitely. The more experience I get in it, you realize the kind of the depth and knowledge, and even just knowing over the years how things change through a business, and yeah, it's super important. But I digress. Let's move on. As far as so you grew this company now worth billions, and now you've moved on to growing LiveSwitch, which is your new company that you're part of. Can you talk about that transition and what inspired you to start LiveSwitch, and the kind of where things were and where it's going?
Yeah. So book recommendation. First book recommendation, I have a few probably on today's show, is called Buy Then Build. Buy Then Build. So we started first off from a startup, and 90% of startups fail. It's just what it is. So if you can go and buy a company that's already cash flowing. So we went and we bought a 12-year-old company. This one happened to be out of Vancouver. We know we wanted to stay in technology. So we purchased this about 5 years ago. When we came on the scene, my partner calls me. He's like, hey, let's build another large tech company. So I needed about a month to be like, all right, here we go. Because, you got to come and clean up someone else's house first and then take your talent and build on top of that. So I came in about 5 years ago, and I also love building things, back to my roots. So in this time, I sat with our engineers. These are computer scientists, and they were speaking English to me, and I didn't understand a word. I was like, you guys have to dumb it down. It's so incredibly hard what we bought. We bought a communications company, predominantly with a live video focus. And we bought it because there's only a few companies in the world that did what it did. So we knew we wanted something unique, special, that we could come in and apply our recipe to, so to speak, our playbooks to, and grow the company. So I hung out with those engineers learning this communications video platform. Took me a long time, like 12 months. It was probably one of the most in-depth, most humbling pieces. But once I understood it, I got a knock on the door from the chief of police of Washington, D.C. So this company, we did the Super Bowl the last 3 years. If you go to an MLB ballpark and scan a QR code, they put you on the Jumbotron. That's our stuff during COVID. If you remember the NBA bubble and all the TV screens and fans, we powered all of that. So hence, we work with all kinds of governments and medical and professional sports. We had a knock on the door from the chief of police in Washington, D.C. to reinvent our nation's 911 phone call, of all things. So I had to think about, how do I get into a citizen's camera now that everybody carries about 2 or 3 or more cameras in their pocket? How can I get in without downloading anything and tap into that live video camera to stream that video feed to a police car, fire truck, or emergency medical? And when you're in a compromised situation and you don't have time to think, you're already compromised. I had to make it so easy that you could do it even when you're working on a few brain cells, right? So woke up at 3 a.m. I was like, I got it. We're going to go in through a text message. So we're going to send an SMS text message while you're on the phone, telephony, and I'm going to come in through your text. You're going to tap it, and then I can get into your cameras, and it creates a point of redundancy. 1, you're on telephony, and 2, you're on video through the internet, right? Mm-hmm. And now that goes right to the police car, fire truck. And so as I was building that, it was like, well, who else could use this stuff, right? Yeah. And the plot continues. I know I'm doing a lot of talking here, but this is the bouncing ball continues to go.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right, great. Keep your popcorn out, guys and gals. So the next stop when we had that, I was like, well, who else could use this no app, remote assistance technology? And came across a guy who was taking care of the Tennessee Titans NFL football team. 20 years in the FBI. This guy is fantastic. I'm showing him all this stuff with the remote assistance for emergencies. And he said, "Hey, James, I have the stupidest question." Like, what do you mean? He's like, "I have a big arena here in Nashville, and sometimes the trash cans fall over all the way across the way, and I have to hop in my golf cart. Can I just send a text and they can show me so I don't have to hop in the golf cart?" And that was like the eureka moment for me. I was like, this is like my Nextel walkie-talkies. And anyone listening that's in construction or any kind of contracting knows I don't even know what happened to those things, Derek. Like, where did the Nextel walkie-talkie go? I love that thing. But it's dead, I guess. But I loved it. And I was like, this is like Nextel walkie-talkie, but with my eyes instead of just my ears. So the next stop on the journey was into home services. And through a series of events, I got to meet a guy who is the mover of movers. I'm talking about moving boxes of all industries. This guy trains, he has big conferences, and I'm showing him, "Hey, this is the medical stuff." And he's like, "James, you're sitting on a pile of gold." "What do you mean?" He's like, "You should know this because you owned home service-based companies. I'm going to use this for virtual estimating and also for remote help with my team." He's like, "The most expensive thing I do is put one of my hourly wage guys in one of my trucks just in the hope of winning the business," right? Like sometimes I'll get there, we'll quote, and the guy's like, "Oh, it's that much? I'll just get 2 pizza boxes and my friends."
Yeah.
We've all heard that before as builders, right? Like, we're like, "Good luck. Call me when things go sideways." you know? And so that set us off on a journey down home services, construction, even property management. And now we have thousands and thousands of users. We're under the hood of things like ServiceTitan and Jobber, and we're connected and integrated with all types of different systems. And it's been quite the wild ride, but that is where we're at today. And we've been scaling this company with that particular product the last 2.5 years. And that's how our paths cross.
Wonderful. That's an inspiring story and really just shows the power of like knowing other people, I guess, and then just seeing opportunities. I think I can pick that up here. Something that you're really good at is realizing where there's a fit here and the use case, I guess, for the home service industry and how game changing it'll be. Can you talk a little bit more about specific use cases in real life scenarios or how this is best utilized by people on the software?
Yeah, 100%. And right even before I do that, you're talking about the power of listening and pivoting, and like, "Oh, this led me the bouncing ball." Well, this happened to me in my home service business as well. We were painting houses head to toe, and we're out painting. And sure enough, a neighbor walks over, is like, "I don't need a paint job, but my house hasn't been power washed in many years. And I see you have a power washer," because you always have to power wash a house before you paint it so the paint
Yep.
sticks on the right way. I was like, "Oh, I can just send the guy over and we can probably power wash that house in a couple hours, and we'll charge you this." And I'm in the South, right? So North Carolina, it was getting hot. So my guys loved it. They loved playing with water guns rather than paint sprayers. And so I launched the next business of the power washing company. And I think that really comes into contact. We got to be careful not to spread our scope too wide, but anyone running your contracting, construction, home service business, be on the lookout for when bits of opportunity might come up and you're just like, "Well, that's not really what we do, but I can do that and I know how to do it well." So I learned a lot about that with any business or nonprofit that I run. I'm always looking to satisfy that customer that might lead to some additional cash as well. And so
Yeah.
the practical, tactical things of now this whole story of our technology and how it's being used to your original question is it's being used to save trips in the truck and save trips in the airplane if you're doing larger projects. It's called speed to lead. So nowadays, if someone wants any kind of work done, what are they going to do? They're going to go to this little thing called the internet. And now they might not just be going to Google, they might be going to AI and asking, "Hey, I have a project I need done." And it will start surfacing, whether it's Google or ChatGPT or whatever, surfacing up companies with phone numbers. So the first thing someone's going to do, probably look at your reviews. All right. So we can talk about that later. After you have enough reviews, they're going to go to your website. I mean, everybody knows this stuff, but then they're going to fill out a quote form or give your phone a call, right? So when that call comes in or that quote comes in, the first thing that you're going to want to do is called race to the face. Okay. Because your face, and every time I've talked to anyone in project management, sales, business owners, when the deal gets 4 figures or more, someone's going to need to see you before they sign something, which is what it is. Now, the thing that everyone thinks is that they have to see you in person every time on property. That is not always the case. Okay. I've seen it change over the last 2 years that we are seeing business won without even going on property. But that doesn't mean it happens every time. Typically, what happens is your prospect will fall into 3 buckets. Bucket number 1 is they have no business calling you. They don't have budget. They don't know how much it is. They're just going to use you for free consulting. We want to get to the no as fast as possible. So if I can send you a text, hey, can I send you a text and you kind of show me the project? I can see the project, ask those discovery questions, and rule them out and save that trip in the truck. So that's bucket one. Bucket two are these highly informed customers. We're talking about customers who already know who you are, might be a referral, might already have a budget set aside and approved. And really, they just want to take a look at you to make sure they know that and they might verbally say, yeah, no, I'm already ready to go. And then you're like, okay, great. And then you drive out, do your measurements, do the bidding, everything you need to do. But that's that Amazon customer is what I'm calling them. Everyone has Amazon Prime because they want their packages now instead of 2 days. You want it overnight. Speed is everything, and getting a face where they can see you as an owner or a salesperson, whoever meets people at the virtual door. And the final bucket is, this is a great project. It's a large project. Like, get out on property as fast as you can because you see them, you see everything, you know it. So those are three buckets. That's where it starts. And this is all around virtual selling as well as virtual follow-ups. After you've been on property, after you've drafted your proposal, you don't always have to go out every single time, especially even on the smaller jobs. So that's where things start.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. And Live Switch makes it super easy. I help my clients with this as well, of like, you don't always need to meet in person. And if you're using email and phone, it's just not as effective as, obviously in person is great, but it's going to take you an hour to drive there and back, or two, or whatever it may be. Or if you're flying, definitely like can save a lot of time. And you still kind of get that face to face back and forth. They can show you the property or whatever needs to be done. And I think it probably sets you apart too a bit from your competition. If like you come off as a little bit more tech conscious or accessible, more like you said, have your face on there, and just builds familiarity for sure. So you've talked about like the sales, the estimating, that early speed to lead. What about things like project management, client experience during the project, communication? How does LiveSwitch kind of fit in there?
Yeah, because these phones that are in your pocket with 3 or 4 cameras are now going to change your entire business. We call it the customer buying experience, from that first sale, like we've been talking about, now to operations. So project managers who are managing multiple projects now are able to send a text and connect with maybe a superintendent, or maybe it's a subcontractor, show me the work. And now everything's tuned up for third-party assistance. This is not a FaceTime call. This is not a conference call. Okay, this is tuned up when your project manager sends a text to maybe that superintendent. That superintendent will see themselves large and the project manager small. That's the reverse of a FaceTime call. The project manager on the other end, though, will see everything large on their computer screen, and it's going to start to record everything. You can take remote photos. We even have a laser guidance system, so you can take your laser point, your mouse, and start tapping on the screen and guide person around. Show me, oh, hold there, walk in. Now that you take the camera, someone's taking the camera out of the pocket, you can get really close. Maybe they just did an excavation. Maybe there's a problem that's going to affect the timeline or the budget, and they're going to need to communicate that to the customer, because customers care about timeline and budget, right? So if there's going to be an issue, now they can share that shared video that the project manager walked the super around in, and share that. They can share it to insurance. They can share it to the customer. They can share it to other operations, to subcontractors, and also they're documenting the work, right? So now they can even put QR codes up on site, where any one of the staff member or any one of the team supers or builders can go and scan the QR code, take a video, and now instead of having to write out everything they've done, they're taking a video. And everyone knows a video is worth 10,000 words. And that'll go right up into the timeline and into the project. And now you're starting to document everything to cover your backside. Or when you bury something or put a wall up, it's always nice to know and see that video that you can go back to and store it indefinitely, especially if you have to go there a year or 2 years later, right? Yeah. So these are the kind of documentation that really helps those project managers manage, from the comfort of their own home, and then deciding when they're going to get behind the windshield or on the airplane. And that ultimately, as a business owner, is reducing my bottom line expenses.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned, the live aspect, of course, super valuable. But as you said, being able to go back later with these recordings, I don't know how many times, we've needed to figure out where the backing is for the TV mount, or, someone buried a low voltage wire in the kitchen. Now we need to find it and dig it out, or whatever, right? So super important for documentation, sharing with clients, those kind of things. As far as like using it with the rest of a tech stack that a contractor may have, how does the integration or process work when kind of using these other tools could be management software or, a cloud storage, things like that.
So different tech stacks require different integrations, right? So everything we do has an open AI. So in some cases, we're already bolted under the hood. Like with a Service Titan, you just hit the on button and we're bolted under the hood. Other times, I've got smaller businesses that are still running on Excel sheets or Google Sheets. They don't have a CRM in place, although we do highly recommend let's get a CRM in place. Even if you don't, that's okay. Within browsers, like a Chrome browser, we have an extension that will look for phone numbers, whether it's from emails, websites, on those Excel sheets, and it'll put a little L next to each one of those pieces. And you just click the L and start the call. And then everything is saved into the cloud. Nothing is ever stored on a customer device or on an employee device. That's a liability. And in fact, all of the things we do are SOC 2 certified because we work with governments. That video call is safer than the phone call that you guys are on. So if safety is ever an issue, this is over the top safe. And then everything is stored in the cloud in case, for liability, we would no more having to scroll through all those photos of all the work in your file in the Photos app. That is not good. That's not a good thing that it's stored there for your business or even your team, because we want to be able to transfer these videos quickly. Because of large video files, because they're not stored on a device and they're stored in the cloud, all you have to have is the link to the video that you can share with anybody. Share it with the superintendent, share it with the insurance, share it with the customer, and you can send that link in an email, a text, or however you want to give it, because we can handle unlimited storage. We're built on the same platforms as like Netflix. So that has global coverage, and we have global coverage as well. We can take care of the largest construction companies, which I have some very large construction companies as customers, all the way down to the mom and pops.
Yeah, perfect. Super useful. And I like the open API so you can integrate and set up automations or whatever you need to do to get the information where you need it. So that's wonderful. What are some like common mistakes or friction that you see contractors starting to use, live video platform like Live Switch?
The biggest thing is taking the phone from your ear and moving it out 3 feet in front of your face and getting on live video, right? Because some of the contractors are like, oh man, video, I don't know about this, like someone's looking over my shoulder. And they only care about that if they have something to hide, right? They don't care about it so much when it's not their fault, right? If you have a documentation where it wasn't their fault, if it's something that covers their backside, they fall in love with live video. And we're seeing video all over. Like I'm sure some of the listeners have taken their car into the auto mechanic now, and the auto mechanics are now showing you proof of work. They're showing you that they changed the oil, they filled up the tires, they checked the air filters, and it's all on video. If you haven't experienced this yet, you will. Video is disrupting every industry, that whether it's medical to construction to home services, because of these cameras in our pockets. So the main point of friction is just like anything, hey, they haven't been using video in the business and now they are. And so training around this stuff, I mean, I can train your team in 2 minutes to use it. Our stuff is, if you can send a text, you can use our stuff. That's another thing, because I live my life on a ladder. I didn't want engineers who coded to build stuff for blue collar guys like myself. Because I always make fun of them. Like, you guys all have soft hands. You've never spent a day on a ladder. Like, we like one-click solutions in construction. I like my truck to start up with one tap. I like tools to start up with one pull. I like simple to use, but effective tools. And so back to Nextel walkie-talkie, we're always thinking with that in mind. And, I can train. The sad thing is they call, the construction and contractor industry the knuckle draggers. And I'm like, we're not the knuckle draggers. You jokers and the coders, you just make stuff too hard to use. You over-engineer things. Like, we don't need all that. We don't need all the fancy whiz-bang stuff. Like, just get it to work. That's what we want. So that's a big part of our approach.
Perfect. Yeah. Keep it simple, streamlined. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? Just useful, and get over that kind of little uncomfortableness of being on live video. I feel like it's only a thing, like you mentioned, for people that just aren't used to it, or for some reason just, are used to not have, feel that some sort of privacy thing's gone, but the security is there and it's going to save a ton of time. It's so common nowadays too. I think everyone's used Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, right? And it's really no different as far as like being live on video. So moving on to like more of maybe the mission or broader picture, you mentioned helping formerly incarcerated individuals become entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about how that connects with your mission or the mission with Live Switch?
Yeah, so my partner and I we have a couple nonprofits, and one of the nonprofits, it's called Inmates to Entrepreneurs. We've been putting thousands and thousands of incarcerated men and women through our entrepreneurship program. In fact, we've hired a few of them into our current business here at Live Switch. In fact, it's so popular that it became an ABC television show called Free Enterprise. We won a bunch of awards for it because the stories are really that amazing. And so I can't even go to the graduations anymore. It just makes me too emotional. But like everybody, we believe in second chances. I think we all need second chances. I know I did. So being able to serve in that way has just been very rewarding for any owners, anyone listening. You don't have to wait until you hit it big to serve. We started doing this before we hit it big. You just put yourself out there and you always get back more than you give. And organizations like Inmates to Entrepreneurs are something we're proud to be a part of and privileged to work in the lives of so many people whose lives changed because of just learning how to run a business.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like it's almost an under talked about part of being a business owner or entrepreneur almost is to have that, like obviously there's a mission to grow and be wealthy and prosper and help your family and things like that. But when you kind of have this bigger mission that you can sort of rally around, and again, you don't have to doesn't have to be a huge amount, especially if you get, starting out or things are tight, but just having some sort of mission tied into your business, whether that's just financial or giving back, I feel like you're just going to be better as a business person. It's going to help you get through those tough times a little bit more because you realize it's not just about, yourself and the business, but it's actually about the bigger picture and helping the people around you and people in need or that need second chances or whatever it might be. And it's actually a key component to being an entrepreneur is to have these overarching larger goals and missions besides just growing and scaling the business, which is great, but that's what can keep you sustained and help you grow for sure.
Yeah, some of the best and most powerful business owners I've seen have had to have a second chance. And most people, when we start bringing this up, like either a brother or a husband or somebody has been impacted by the judicial system, and they did something they probably didn't want to do. And they get another chance and they get really resilient and they remember where they came from, and especially giving folks. And I've heard so many business owners that have given folks a second chance to be part of their business, and they're the most loyal, hardworking, best employees that they've had. So, we really need to keep an open, be discerning, but, give people a second chance and you'll be shocked at what they can do for you and your business.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, inspiring to know that that's a big part of the business that you do. As far as like mindset, what's a mindset shift you believe every contractor needs to make in order to scale and grow their business sustainably?
When's the last time you went on vacation, and can you go on vacation and your business will still run like a top? If you can't go on vacation for more than a day, try a week, maybe even a month if you're wild, and your business, and if it can run and run like a top, you have yourself a business. So in order to get there, you have to free yourself. So book recommendation number 2 says making money is killing your business. It's a wonderful book to read. It's all about what they call freedom mapping and taking it and mapping your process from end to end and then having a layer. So you might have kind of like a cover page of your process with maybe 1 or 2 bullets, but then you can double click into the process, and that process is owned by the person that is doing the work. So if it's your sales team or if it's your operations team or if your finance team, everything's documented. That way, when you have a switch, maybe someone quits and you have to hire a new person or you're ready to scale, you're able and have everything documented. So working with someone like Derek, he can help you with these process, with operations. I know you can probably get on your soapbox for a while around this, Derek, but what it can mean for a business owner, especially if you're in that 1 to 10 million revenue, this is a time to set yourself free. And to do that and making yourself redundant is something I always work to do. So I was a product officer here at Live Switch. I've made myself redundant. I'm actively making myself redundant in revenue, and it's a good thing. As a business owner or as someone who is company focused, you're not so much trying to race to the top, secure your position. You're the most important person. That's a real problem. It's called key man problem. And the key man problem is a big problem. And a lot of businesses have it. And a lot of it comes down to our own personal pride. And we're worried maybe if I make myself redundant, they're going to open up a competing business or all the worries, or maybe it's just your own pride that's getting in the way. But I've seen the fastest growing companies, no matter what the vertical, is when you have an owner and a management team that believes in making themselves redundant through this type of approach. Derek, do you agree with all this? I'm sure I can see you nodding and smiling. I'm like, I think I've got
100%. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's so essential to I say you as a business owner, you want to replace yourself, and part of that is building out that process, those systems, the operations, and then enabling being the leader that enables other leaders and your management team in your business to take the ball, run with it. And yeah, there's going to be hiccups. People are going to fumble. Things are going to go, left and right. But that's where you adjust, and those are the opportunities to then improve your system and your process, and be able to grow that business. And yeah, the vacation test essentially. Can you go on vacation without things falling apart or coming back to a huge inbox and mess to clean up when you get back, or things smooth sailing and you can just kind of fit in again and plan your next vacation.
Yeah, you have a
So.
real business when you can do that. When you do that, I would say
Mhm.
you don't have a real business unless you can leave. And that's what's
Mhm.
super valuable as well. And it empowers your people. I mean, I can go on and on why this is so important, but we get in our own way. You've got to get out of your own way. And if you're listening right now, I'm challenging you to get out of the way. Start making a few things redundant this week. Like find a few things you can hand off and hand off. Okay, they won't do it as well as you, or could they? And if you documented everything and had the process, they might even improve your process. So just take your pride and back up a little bit and hand your baby off. It's going to be just fine, and your future self will thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And the beauty of it is every small little piece or thing you can hand off or system process you can, document and delegate to somebody else, the easier the next one's going to be because you have that experience and you've also freed yourself to then focus on, having more time on higher level and creating, better systems and processes. So it's a virtuous cycle. It's not easy. And I know this is something people struggle with for years sometimes, but it is a worthwhile objective and the way forward for a business. So thanks so much, James. It's been a pleasure for sure, an honor, and you've shared so much with us. What's the best way for people to learn more about Live Switch or connect with you possibly?
Yeah, two things. Anyone listen, I made this promise to Derek that I will personally take care of you. If you go to LinkedIn and look up James Hatfield and Live Switch, LIVESWITCH, and reach out, I will make time. I literally had a guy reach out yesterday who owns a fencing company, and we spent an hour together, and it was fabulous. So please, reach out. And I know I'm gonna challenge people here. Many of you won't. Many of you won't reach out, but if you do, I can give you. I'm not here to just sell you some software. That's not what I actually care about my other fellow business owners, operators, and sales, whatever you find yourself in. I'm happy to help. The second, if you do want to demo the software, just go to liveswitch.com, click on demo, and say ask for James. Just ask for me, and you'll circumvent our sales team. I love my sales team, but you can come right to me. I'll make sure that anyone listening gets direct help from me personally.
Wonderful. So we'll put some links in the description of this, video or audio, depending where you're listening or watching, and you can click through to the LiveSwitch website, and as well as reach out to James on LinkedIn if you'd like. Yeah, fantastic. Really enjoyed the time here, James. Any final words of wisdom or last thing that you want to say?
Last thing I want to say is thank you to Derek. And I want everyone one last challenge. I've challenged you probably 4 things. I want you to share this. I want you to, if you've been listening to Derek, even if this is your first time, take the second, pause what you're doing right now, go to your LinkedIn or wherever you share, or it just with one other person, a coworker, and say, hey, check this out. I got a lot of value from this, because the people that give, somehow magically they get a lot more back. So just take that second, do that for Derek, please. He's really putting himself out there to give quality content. I'm sure he doesn't make a fortune off doing this podcast, but he does it because he wants to share with his industry. And so I think the least we can do as a community is share about what he's doing. So that's the final word I'll say, Derek.
Very true. Share it. James, like myself, as a fellow educator, we're really here to educate and help contractors with our experience and resources and things that we do. So go ahead and share that with other people that will get some value out of it. Thank you so much, James, and we'll see everybody on the next one.